Tentatively, we'd like to bring this meeting to order. It's November 13th, 2024. It's now 6:31. Deputy Clerk Weiss, can you read the roll call, please?
Ellis,
Good evening, yes.
Ramsey,
Here.
Gagan,
Here.
Hodgkin, Lawrence,
Here.
Mackey,
Here.
Morrison,
Here.
Sartini,
Here.
Fredo, Fedor,
Here.
Moore,
Here.
Taylor,
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to excuse council members Hodgkin and Prado. Second.
Any, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? That is if you can. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Can we get the council president's or?
I'd like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Thank you. Second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. So we have some presentations now tonight, and it looks like number A is Halloween Spooktacular Award. Director Barnum.
Thank you. So Mayor, you get the honors of presenting the awards for the Halloween Spooktacular. So the Aberdeen Parks Department partnered with the Downtown Aberdeen Association and held the Halloween Spooktacular as part of the Downtown Trick or Treat. The Spooktacular is an opportunity for kids and their families to come in and have their photo taken, and then they can also enter a costume contest. We had 193 entrants this year.
Wow.
Yeah, well, it was up about 30 kids from last year. How the awards are given are based on voting online. And also we have some judges that do some judging. I want to thank Rick Moyer of Moyer Multimedia. Rick took all the photos and he's here tonight to take some more photos for us. So thank you, Rick. And the Downtown Aberdeen Association. All right, our first award goes for the best duo group. It's Oompa Loompa and Violet, Emily and Raquel Woods.
That's perfect. That's perfect. You guys look great.
Thank you.
Come over here and. There we go.
It's okay.
Awesome.
Hear that? Look, it's chocolate. You want the paper instead?
And the picture? Look, it's a picture of you.
I was gonna think on it for a while. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You want that? Oh, yeah, there you go.
Awesome. Hey, come on.
Go back to the movie. Go back to the movie. Go shoot for the-
Okay, then the next category was cutest costume. And the winner was the werewolf, Jacob de Alexandrio.
Are you under there? Betty wants the chocolate.
That's chocolate.
You gotta look at the camera here, so.
Yeah, remember, you gotta do me your werewolf pose. Ready? Ready? All right, do it. Go for it. Ready? You're not getting. But I could look like that. Right?
Rick, you do a good work.
Yeah.
And this will be the last award. Unfortunately, our fan favorite costume didn't show up, which was Minion Amara Bell. So the next category was Judge's Choice Award, and it was Corpse Bride Penelope Smith.
People are dying for that color.
Sorry, can you switch down?
All right, here we go. Oh, he's in
Good job.
Good job.
Thank you.
Good job.
Mr. Mayor, for the record, Councilmember Fredo is logged on.
So, from now on until the future, when we have, council people who are logged into the meeting, can we please have them have their picture on? So that we can actually see that they're here.
For the most part, that's not a problem, Mayor, but if they're needing to call in from their cellular device while they're on the road, their picture will not be available.
Okay, so I was just looking into the rules and it's like we can't consider them here unless we have their picture for a quorum,
Like,
if we need it for a quorum.
I was here, but I was on the phone because I was in the car.
Right,
So I couldn't call on mine. But I still did.
okay,
I was here.
okay.
She wasn't able to vote and also it was.
You don't believe it's not.
Okay, okay, thank you. So now we'll go on to public comments. Oh, wait a minute, hold on here.
Don't worry.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, Main Street Excellence, sorry. Excellence Awards and Downtown Association, let's see, Director Barnum is up again.
Now we go. Now we go.
Yes, we are.
We have a recording. Wow. Here we go.
Love it.
You like me? I hope you do. Oh, good, you did.
Bring it in, bring it in.
That last one's hard to follow, but we're gonna give it a shot. I'm Will Russell, and the Downtown Aberdeen Association is really excited about this. So I'm going to be reading this, so I won't just ad lib it. But I wish I could, but Betty won't let me. So every year is a cornerstone event of the annual Places Conference. This Washington State Main Street program hosts the Excellence on Main Awards ceremony, honoring projects and individuals whose hard work and innovative efforts are making a difference in their communities and beyond. This year's 2024 Excellence on Main Award winners were announced on Thursday, October 17th at the Giza Powerhouse Theater during the Places Conference held October 16th to 18th in Walla Walla. The Organizational Excellence Award is an award that recognizes excellence in building a strong downtown revitalization organization while achieving consensus and cooperation among stakeholder groups. The Downtown Aberdeen Association has been named the 2024 Organizational Excellence Award recipient for its hard-working Bloom team. As a rural community whose identity and economy were for many decades centered around the timber industry, Aberdeen saw economic opportunities become scarce, and after the closure of its mill, these changes also affected residents' sense of pride. But in 2014, two residents by the names of Bobby, B and B, Bobby, McCracken and Betty Ware approached City Parks and Recreation Director with an idea to spruce up the image and mentality of downtown Aberdeen through a downtown beautification program, and the Bloom team was born. Bobby and Betty began recruiting additional volunteers and launched a letter campaign to raise funds. You guys have been doing this for a long time. A decade later, the partnership with Parks and Rec is still in place, and the Bloom team is the core program of the Downtown Aberdeen Association. It's team collaboration with Parks and Rec and with hanging and maintaining 150 hanging baskets, and the Bloom team volunteers plant and maintain 120 sidewalk pots that vibrate in all four seasons, rain, snow, or shine. I know how dirty you girls get. Pink flowers are now a downtown Aberdeen trademark, as are the pink vests worn by enthusiastic volunteers. Yay! The Bloom team doesn't view the flowers as a Band-Aid to the very real challenges facing the district, but rather a visible symbol of civic pride and invitation to come together to care for our community. Bobby and Betty's leadership over the years has set a tone in downtown Aberdeen, noted the Washington State Main Street Program Director Breanne Durham on the Excellence in Maine ceremony. She says, with a clear purpose to strengthen community bonds, creating welcoming opportunities for others to get involved, and showing appreciation to fellow volunteers, Bobby and Betty have planted a lot of flowers and seeds of hope. She personally presented the Organizational Excellence Award to Bobby and Betty, who were in attendance at the awards ceremony. So congratulations to all of you.
Ready? On the count of three, and you're all gonna say Bloom. 1, 2, 3. Bloom. Very good. Excellent, thank you.
So now, we would like to present the plaque to Stacy Barnum in the Parks Department for the partnership that we have with you. We couldn't do it without you, and we think you probably couldn't do it without us.
It's not really a partnership. I work for Betty and Bobby.
Everybody does.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You.
You want to get in a picture?
My pink.
One more time, the mayor out of the bathroom. Sorry. Good job.
Bummer. So we do want to invite you all to Winterfest, December 6th and 7th.
Thank you.
What's great, one of the great things is they don't just put them in, they maintain them. You see them walking around all the time, pulling weeds and fixing them up and keeping them good looking. So we really appreciate that. All right, so now Food Authority with Scott. Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry. Food Authority with Scott
Betcher.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I think I'll bring this to the table and Vicki and I are gonna present.
Okay.
Okay. So it's Betcher. Okay. But that's okay. I've had a lifetime of mispronunciations.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So I'm Scott Betcher. I'm staff to the Chehalis River Basin Flood Authority. And to my left is Commissioner Vicki Rains. She's the chair of the Flood Authority. And we're here today. We're doing a round of visits to local county commissioners, county commissions, town councils, city councils, updating you all about what the Flood Authority is and what we're doing in hopes that you just have a better appreciation. And we've done rounds before you several times, and some of you may be new, and if some of this is old, apologize, but I think a lot of it is new. So do you want to say something before we get going?
The Food Authority would be great. Haven't had dinner yet, so it's a hot spot for me. I just want to thank the city of Aberdeen for its partnership and collaboration and working with us with the Flood Authority. We have 13 different municipalities, 3 counties, and 10 cities that participate with the Flood Authority. You're going to hear a little bit about the numerous, about 100 projects that we've done. Scott's going to chat about those. We have another ask coming to the legislature, so we'll be getting to Nick and Rick Sanger, a resolution. This is a repeat of the resolution that the council has approved in the past. It's just an updated one that we're hoping all jurisdictions approve such resolution so that we can submit it with our legislative ask for additional funding for flood projects within the basin. I can remember when we first started out and Kathy Hoder was one of the representatives on the flood authority. So you're talking a few years ago. And then we had the pleasure of working with Chris Kosky, who did great, and Deanne Shaw. And now we're working with Rick and with Nick. I won't try and say that a couple times too fast. But it's been a really wonderful partnership over the last few years. We started out doing just local projects and expanded, and Scott will talk a little bit about that with the Chehalis Basin Board. And one of our local projects actually got moved up to the Chehalis Basin Board, and that is the levee. And we fought very hard to get funding for that levee over the last several years. And in additional partnership with Hopewind, we're there. And so we'll continue to do the small legs of work and leave that one up to our larger group. And just excited to be here and want to thank you all for your contribution to your community, number one, but also for participating in Flood Authority. Thank you.
You left off two other Aberdeen people originally, Larry Bledsoe and Jim Cook, and then Malcolm, I'm forgetting about. Oh, right, okay. Okay, so, apologize for those of you who have to turn your neck around like an owl, but, we'll do the best we can do. So the genesis of the Flood Authority is the 2007 flood. Probably most of you are familiar with that. It was a catastrophic flood. The pictures depict it. It was $1 billion in 2007 of damage and $300 million of lost economic activity over that 5 to 7 day period. So it was catastrophic. Next. So today I want to talk about the Flood Authority, in particular, our local projects, and then our flood warning system. And then secondarily, I want to touch on the proposed dam in the upper basin that's being proposed by the Chehalis River Basin Flood Control Zone District. And there are a lot of Chehalis things, and I hope to demystify and clarify that because it is kind of confusing. So next. So the Flood Authority. We were formed in 2008 by statute after the 2007 flood. And you can see the jurisdictions that are represented on the Flood Authority. And our primary purpose is to help the communities in the basin come up with flood projects that help their communities. We know that some of the smaller projects aren't going to stop catastrophic flooding, but they will stop the flooding that's just less of catastrophic flooding that is very frequent. The Chehalis Basin is diverse, and what works in PL may not work down here and vice versa. So we work very closely with your public works directors, your community development directors to come up with projects that are tailored and suited to your communities. Our decision making is on science, based on science. We want to know that our projects are successful and they're not going to push water downstream and hurt someone below us. Next. So the table on the right hand side shows the funding by the state legislature that's been allocated over the years towards local projects. And originally we focused on infrastructure, things that will need post flood for resiliency. So we want to ensure that water supplies are flowing again. We want to ensure that we have wastewater treatment plants that are operating. We should make sure that our emergency response corridors are open. All of those are vital and important for citizens. Our funding amount at $55 million, we hope to show you that that's money well spent, and not only to councilors, but also to the public. Our request for 25-27 is somewhere between 3 and 13 million right now. We're working on that with the Chehalis Basin Board. Next. So here is sort of just a picture that shows and is intended to convey that there's a diversity of projects all around the basin. What's important to know is that you think of flood reduction as how are we going to stop the rain and how are we going to stop the flood? Well, it's not that, it's rather how are you going to live with it? And so a lot of our projects are small, $450,000 on average, but they make a world of difference. So for example, we've built 25 farm pads around the basin, which are earthen structures that animals, farm equipment, farm chemicals can be placed, and they can ride out a storm for 4 or 5 days. They're dry. 2007, they all grew. Okay. Those aren't that expensive, and it makes a world of difference. I was in Dakota last night reminding them we paid $300,000 to put a little levee around their drinking water source. In 2007, it was underwater. 96, it was underwater. Department of Health closes it. Now it's out of the floodplain. So it doesn't take a lot of money sometimes to make a real difference. Next. Just another picture from one of our internal maps showing the diversity. On the left-hand side is the number of projects completed by year, and on the right-hand side is the funding amounts. An important point about the projects completed by year is we endeavor and have been successful in getting a project completed and functional every single year. That is our goal. For this coming flood season down in Hopium, they're going to have the Queen Street pump station come online. And that will provide benefit for yet again another flood season. And so the public sees money getting spent and the public wants to see results. And we feel that results like this that show on the ground projects that were preceded by smart planning and smart science is a good public investment. Next. So I'm going to just go through a few projects that kind of demonstrate what we feel proud of. Montesano wastewater treatment plant, the Wainuchi River was heading headlong at the treatment plant, threatening to do an end run around it and then collapse it. The picture on the right-hand side, you can see the river starting to make its way up to the right. We put 100 log structures in front of the corner of the treatment plant. That served to take the river's energy, damp it down and move the river away. Today, the treatment plant is very safe and on solid ground, and we averted what would have been a real disaster. So caused by flooding. Now also Montesano, and we did a project where when Mary's Rivers Lumber was there and the city's industrial property, the Chehalis River was making an S-turn and threatening to break through the little peninsula of land, sending the full force of the Chehalis River at the industrial facility. That's a 2014 photo. Today, that has broken through, but because of the protection we put in front of that industrial facility, it's still in operation. And so not only do you need infrastructure for resilience, but you also need your economy to continue as well in times of flood. So this was a very important project. Next. And a lot of partnership and the protected Highway 107. And I should say just Vicky's cue here about partnership on that project. And this is some of the partnership that we do in the Flood Authority. Cosmopolis had a $3 million budget. They're working on their dam at that point in time. They stepped away from that $3 million, gave it to Montesano so that Montesano could complete this project because we knew we didn't have much time. And then that $3 million was paid back later. And that spirit of cooperation, it goes up and down the basin. We've moved money from the lower basin to the upper basin to lower basin, wherever the need is most emergent. And so we can continue to get a project done every single year. This is the Port of Grace Harbor. The Chehalis River was threatening their haul road, they call it. That's a primary road that carries a 60-inch water main and also carries very heavy-duty nuclear scale electrical infrastructure. Irreplaceable on any sort of short time frame, plus very expensive. That road is essential to the Port of Grace Harbor's operations, and through some fast work and creative work, we're able to protect that road and stabilize it. Next. And then we do projects on a small scale to help just individuals. We did a pilot in Bucoda where Bucoda was hit hard by the 1996 flood. People elevated their homes and they didn't put proper flood venting in, they didn't know. And so when you have, cinder block construction elevation, and if the water rises on the outside, that pressure can topple the structure, making you perhaps in greater harm's way than you were. So we put in flood vents in these homes, did 11 homes. What was also so great about this was, A, they were protected. Their risk went down in the eyes of FEMA, so their flood insurance went down about half. And so, good flood protection is good for a person's pocketbook. Next. So we're going to get into a little talk about pumps. This is a pump in Hoquiam, the Raymer Street pump that we funded. That cost us $1.3 million. It protects about $72 million in asset. During the 22 flood, the whole Raymer Street basin was dry. Okay, it was dry. So pumps work. Next. This is a great photo. This speaks to you. This is the Chehalis Centurion, the airport. We funded a pump for them at about 1.14 million. In January 22, that pump pumped about 518 million gallons over several days to keep everything inside that levee dry. And that's what your area will look like after the Hoquiam, after the North Shore levee goes in, and you have pumps. Your areas will be dry and out of the floodplain. Which means that all that money that you're paying for flood insurance won't have to pay as much, and you've heard all this. What I like to think about for the public is we took 1.14 million of public dollars, and we're protecting, 45 million in asset. That 45 million in asset generates $9 million in revenue every single year back to the state of Washington. So we asked the state of Washington for 1.8 million, 1.14 million, and we pay back 9 million. That is just a really good example of positive investment. Next. So our first 10 years, 12 years with the Flood Authority, we took care of a lot of maintenance, low-hanging fruit projects, things that were just obvious. We're now working with the Office of Chehalis Basin and the Chehalis Board to be more strategic. They're asking us to be so as they chart their strategy for the next 20 or 30 years. And so we're looking at discrete geographic areas to come up with investment plans to make sure that, in this area where there's so many different jurisdictions, for example, the Chehalis Centralia area, it's very hard to do flood hazard reduction when you have overlapping jurisdictions. What I do here, I may not have authority over there, et cetera. So the circles on the page are the geographic areas. Next. And why are we doing that also? That's a profile of the Chehalis Basin, okay? It is steep in the upper basin in PL. The water from the Willapa Hills comes roaring down fast. It's erosive. It takes things out. It gets into Chehalis and Centralia, and it just stalls out. It flattens out, and it can't drain. And there's all those jurisdictions. It's very difficult to figure out a solution. This geographic approach we're taking is going to help us make a community-based sets of solutions. Then it continues on down. It comes into the lower basin to sea level. You get a king tide. You get an onshore flow. You have a very difficult time, and leaving you with really the only solutions of levees and pumps. Okay. Next. So we've been working with Aberdeen and Hoquiam, Nick, and then also Brian Shea over at Hoquiam and his folks to look at all the different basins in your low-lying communities. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 basins between that are kind of little sub basins. There's $1 billion of assessed value in there. So if you continue, next slide. This is sort of detailed, but essentially, we need in total about $50 million to provide the pumping infrastructure to keep that $1 billion dry. We are 58% of the way there. We're asking this funding cycle for another, hopefully 24% of that. In your case, Division Pump Station needs about 3.5 million for construction. Farragut needs 5 from us, and Nick got 5 from the Public Works Board. We're working very hard with the Chehalis Basin Board to bring this home so we can say it's done because we need a lot of time and energy to work in that middle part of the basin. So, your support along the way, will be helpful. Next. So that's local projects. The idea of local projects is to work with your local communities on the solutions that are right for your communities, and to get them funded and constructed so that the public sees that stuff is actually happening. It's just not studies. The second area we feel really proud about is our flood warning system. Not only are we proud about it, but we've received 2 national awards. This is a system that's not a Cadillac. It fits right for our community, since the state budget has built it, but the local communities pay for the operations and maintenance of it. So it covers, in her role as county commissioner, the county covers 38% of it, operating cost, and then Lewis County covers 67%, and Thurston's about 8 or 9%. So they cover the operation and maintenance. What this is, it's a website, sure, and you can get a lot of information, but it's also, there's about 110 gauges in the basin that are now all tied together with radio telemetry. They go up to the satellites and they go straight to the National Weather Service. And the Weather Service can now calibrate its forecast 100% of the time what's happening on the ground. 2007, that was not the case. We didn't know what was happening on the ground in a lot of different places. And the Weather Service's forecast was just way off. They missed it. That won't happen anymore. It's highly accurate. The other thing about this, next slide, is that you all can sign up for, and I think maybe that you got some papers, to get email alerts from 14 gauges in the basin. You can pick the ones you want to sign up for. Whenever the river gets up to a certain height, it will throw off an alarm to your email, and you now have the time to contact a loved one, to go to your house and pull stuff out of the basement and put it up in the attic, to get your animals and move them elsewhere, to move your cars, do whatever you need to do. If you're waiting until the emergency management folks are telling you that you need to do something, it's too late. You're in a highly reactive mode. We set these alarms to go off a foot to 2 feet early so you can have time to proactively, and not in a panic sense, do something about it. It's been very popular. We're up to 4,000 signups last year. Our stretch goal this year is 5,000. And, the best defense about flooding is to not get yourself in harm's way and your property. So this is a way to get towards that. Next. We are moving towards closure here. The new thing on the flood warning system is we are working with the National Weather Service to install a tide gauge at the mouth of the Chehalis on the port of Grace Harbor property. Why is that important? The National Weather Service does have the capacity to develop a predictive model for the Chehalis River where you have tidal influence. So we can predict the river for everything above Montesano. We know how much it's raining. We can tell you we can predict how high the river will get. We can't do that below Montesano because you got downriver, you got incline to tide, it suddenly gets a lot more complex. They do this on the Columbia River. The National Weather Service said they would do it for us, provided we get the right information in place. If we can get this tidal gauge in place, then in time, we'll be able to have a whole river forecast from PL all the way down to the harbor. And that is something that then allows everybody to be aware and be prepared. Next. So that is in the works. That might take a year or two. So that's the flood authority, local projects to help people, and then also the flood warning system to help people be aware and be prepared. The other piece I wanted to touch on is the work of the Chehalis River Basin Flood Control Zone District. That's a district up in Lewis County. They are the ones that are proposing the dam you've probably heard about in the upper basin. I'm going to use the word dam now, but I'm going to, next slide. There should be a video button to push there. So you may have to, when you open the presentation, did you push enable content? You could close the presentation, open it again, and there will be a little button that says enable.
Find it.
Yeah, so push enable content. There you go. Now go to slide, whatever that was, 15 or something, or 20. You keep going.
Yeah.
There it is. There's your button. Okay, so watch this. This is not a dam that you might think of as a dam. Okay. It's a flow through dam. Do we have volume merge?
Lincoln. I do not.
Okay. I can narrate.
We can also forward it
Yeah, forward.
to you to disseminate.
Yeah. Let me just describe it, and we'll send it to you. It's on YouTube, unless you have the ability to go to YouTube and just do Chehalis flow through dam. But you may not be able to.
Boy.
Oh, well, if that's the case, let me describe it for you. A traditional dam blocks the river. Traditional dam doesn't let fish go up. A traditional dam doesn't let sediment go down. Those are all adverse consequences of dams. That's the way dams used to be. Oh, there you go. See if we got a sound. No sound. Okay. So what this is a dam that is built across the river, and the river flows underneath of it all the time. Okay, so it's a continuously flowing dam structure. Fish can swim up, fish can go down unimpeded, no human need to trap and haul and all that sort of stuff. Sediment and natural river processes can continue back and forth underneath of the dam. When you have that catastrophic flood event coming, which this would have only operated 3 times in the last 20 years. When that flood event is coming, gates go down and close off some of the flow that's coming through so that you end up holding back, but it doesn't close at all. It will never go lower than the base flow in wintertime. So it's all been agreed that that would be the continual flow. It holds that pool for 30 days and it starts to release it again. And that's part of the challenge is, well, so much water comes down so fast, it inundates us. It overtops our system. The Chehalis is a system. So the dam, the flow through dam allows it to continue flowing through, and then it will release in a metered way of over about 30 days to bring it back empty. So we will send you the link. I encourage you to have an open mind to this. There is, as I understand, only one other place in the world that this has been done, in Japan. Okay. And this is A, innovative. B, when the draft environmental impact statement was released by the state, and then the draft environmental impact statement was released by the feds, it identified a number of issues. This is responsive to those issues. This has been redesigned, and that environmental review process is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, saying, hey, red flag, these are concern areas. We're concerned about fish. We're concerned about sediment. And this was the redesign to that. The final environmental impact statements is predicted to come out in another year or so in response to this. So we'll make sure that you get the audio version of this. Next. Okay. So that's the big picture. I should say too, that proposed flow through dam, when it holds back, it would have kept I-5 open. And it would have significantly reduced that $1 billion in damage and $1 billion in property damage and $300 million in loss. So there's a lot of things Chehalis, and I want to just outline a few of them as we come to closure. We are the flood authority. The flood authority is a group focused on the local community. The Office of Chehalis Basin sits at the Department of Ecology, and they administer the whole program. There's a whole program here. And they are governed by a Chehalis Basin Board. Vicki is chair of the Basin Board. The Flood Authority appoints 3 people to that board. So in other words, that board is very sensitive to the needs of local communities. Okay, this is a 7-person board, 5 voting members.
There's 6.
6 voting members, and 3 of them are appointed by the Flood Board. So
No, there's 7, with 2 tribes.
okay, yes. And then there's a whole network of partners. Who are these partners? Next slide. here you go. I would tell you, and I've been around governmental processes for a long time, especially environmental processes that get complicated. I've never seen a group of such diversity working together so in sync. And it's not just my observation. The state legislature has seen this to the point where they have funded for 5 biennia continual healthy amounts of funding for this. And so there's this sharing that I mentioned earlier with Cosmopolis sharing $3 million so that Montesano could complete that project. That sharing and that sense of participation and collaboration is really quite remarkable. And it's something that we are very proud of to be part of. Next. So today, we are substantially better prepared for flooding, catastrophic flooding than ever before. We have the state-of-the-art flood warning system that allows people to be aware. We've done 100-some projects. We're serving all scales of people, from individual homeowners up to, the whole cities. And we really have a governance, administrative, and funding structure that's delivering results for you all in healthy amounts. And so the resolution that Vicki mentioned that will be brought to you is really to continue to support this effort. And if you see value in what we're doing, we encourage your passage of the resolution. Next. So Vicki is the chair of the Flood Authority, chair of the Basin Board. Edna Fund, former Lewis County Commissioner. She's the Lewis County representative to the Flood Authority. She's vice chair, and then she also chairs the Flood Control Zone Advisory Board, and then I'm staff. So we did it. I'm happy to take questions. I'm sorry the video didn't work either.
It's a really good video. I hope you get it and are able to watch it, because it's very, and it's narrated. It's not just out there. It's very informative.
It's 5 minutes.
Go ahead, councilperson. Thank you very much. That was extremely informative. I really appreciated it. I'm curious, do you have a total number of projects identified? I mean, are there 200 or 500 to go, or 5 left to go, or?
So,
is this
no
change on a regular basis?
So, yes and no. Good answer. We took care of a lot of the obvious projects. And, for example, one area we haven't done a single project is in Chehalis and Centralia, in that area in there, because it is so complicated. You have the county, you have the 2 cities, they all overlap, you have the urban growth area, you have the railroad, you have private property. And so trying to solve flooding when you actually don't have much real estate means you need to have a bigger real estate, meaning you need to have everybody on board with you. And so we are running an investment planning process in that area for right now, and those other areas. And we don't know how many projects are going to come out of there, but we know they will. So the low hanging fruit, yeah, we've done those. I mean, our infrastructure is protected. Our animals are protected. Individual homes are in programs to be elevated, as well as flood venting. Yeah, that's all accountable. We can't tell you exactly how many projects, for example, in that area. We know in the Skookumchuck that we have work we want to do in there, but there's, again, a lot of jurisdictions, and we have to bring them all together to come up with some sort of investment plan. So I would think just projecting at least another several biennia projects for these local projects. Yeah.
The Flood Authority does have a projects committee that's made up of 5 individuals that are on the Flood Authority. And they'll review projects that are brought to our attention, whether it's Aberdeen bringing a project or Hopewood bringing a project, or we had a project from Elma. They're not a Flood Authority member, but they are in the basin and on the river. And we were able to do an outfall project that we worked with Mike Golden on. And so there's always something that comes up to where you learn about these pump stations and you work towards this list of projects, and then something else may come along that you didn't notice before because you have these other major things that you're dealing with, and we'll add to that list. And then the projects committee reviews that list on an annual basis, if not more often, and then brings it to the full board of the flood authority, which then we take to the Chehalis Basin Board with our ask to the legislature, and we'll prioritize those. And most of the time that priority list stands. Sometimes it doesn't when you have, the project when we were, Scott mentioned about in Cosmopolis, we weren't shovel ready with that project. And so we knew it was a risk to give it to Montesano, but they were ready to go and could lose this piece of industrial property along with Highway 107. And so we thought it was best that we did that. And then the next biennium, we asked for that funding back, and Governor Gregoire at the time did that. So she gave us that funding back in her governor's budget that year, and it was supported by the legislature. But we're always looking at projects, and I can tell you that being on the flood authority and the Chehalis Basin Board a number of years, and we're trying to solve these solutions in the lower basin, because Scott said we don't want them to take out the Mellon Street Bridge up in Centralia, Chehalis area, and send all that water down on us. Nor do we want the Montesano sewage treatment facility to be overtopped and send all that down on us. So we're trying to work in tandem with other jurisdictions. But I would have never guessed that we would have gotten to this point a decade ago to where we're looking at this North Shore levee and these pump stations, 5 in Hoquiam and 6 in the city of Aberdeen. Those have come about. Another example of partnering is that the Chehalis Basin Board, which is part of the Office of Chehalis Basin, is the one that asks for the majority of the funding. Our ask this year is $80 million to the legislature in the capital budget. There were residual dollars left this year that we were able to fund a pump station for Hoquiam, and then another chunk wasn't going to be spent in time, so it came from a different pot of money. We have flood, we have aquatic species, we have land, all these different components. And we were able to use $1 million of that to be able to do another pump. It won't finish the project, but we'll be able to buy the pump and get it ready to go, so that then we can say the next go around of the funding with the legislature, hey, we're already started in this and we just need to get it finished. This is what we need to get it finished. You're able to kind of leverage those dollars a little bit. Having that on the board project committee really helps. And they, amongst themselves, Brian Shays on there, Frank Chestnut is on there.
Ron April.
Ron April, who's with the city of Centralia, city of Chehalis.
Ron Ketchum.
Tony Ketchum,
James.
Chehalis.
Ron Centralia.
And who else?
I think that's.
There's 5 of them. And then we have an outreach committee that Edna and I are part of, and then we have our executive team. But we've kind of dialed it in with Scott's help to know what we need to do, who we need to present it to. So I hope that helps kind of answer your question on the projects. They can change if something comes about and it becomes a bigger priority or a bigger threat.
And Bill, I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a question. I have a question. Go ahead. If there was a property owner that was having, say, 20 inches of the water coming in for the wish cover of their yard, say today, is that for their, and it's only affecting 2 houses, and what would they do to get the attention of someone to get something done that there?
So the office of Chehalis Basin, that's one of the pictures, entities on the picture. They have a local community driven program. Kat Dickey is the person to contact if you want to. I can take your name, or I can send you the contact information to send to those 2 homeowners.
It's me.
Oh, that's you? Yeah.
It's me.
Okay. Yeah, we have done individual homes, like we had on the Creek. There was a homeowner bought the home and suddenly didn't realize the rivers migrated so quickly and was threatening to take out all the septic. And so we partnered and got some funding, and then they put some money into, and we took care of that erosion problem. project?
I would love some information, yeah, because we have a 400-foot zigzag that cuts straight into the river. It started out as about a foot deep when I moved in 15 years ago, and now it's about 5 feet deep and about 9 feet wide. And it's,
Okay.
it's,
We could just contact them.
Okay, big,
thank you.
and that's why we can't tell you how many projects, because things are constantly changing.
But we have done, as Scott mentioned earlier, on individual homes, we have done venting projects, we have done elevation projects. The farm paths, on the very first picture that you saw on the slide, it was hard to see, but there was it was right behind Mr. Lawrence, there was a heap of something you could see from a distance. It was cows. And we saw a farmer lose 200 head of cow in one night because they drowned. And we were able to go in and build these farm paths, construct these farm paths so that they could run their sheep or run their cow or run their backhoe up on these things. And they were really inexpensive. When we first started, we changed it to farm paths. It used to be critter paths. And then it was livestock, but then we were putting equipment. So there's lots of things that we can do to help individual owners. We just need to be aware and know that it's occurring.
Thank you. Any other final questions? Or- No,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Thank you. That was very informative.
Oh, and make sure you sign for the flood warning system. We have to get to 5,000.
Online, there's the
There could be a piece of paper.
handout.
Yeah.
Yep, right there. Right. Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys. So now we do public comments. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes and start with your name and your address, please. And I don't need to say be civil. Everybody seems to be civil lately, so. Any comments from the public?
Hi, my name is Darren Bates. I'm in Ward 2, and my comment is more directed towards Councilman Sador. And I don't know exactly when, but at a council meeting, he told everyone about the taxes going up is only like $2-3 per person. Who does he think is going to pay for the people that don't pay the taxes in the city? It's us homeowners. And when Aberdeen raises their property taxes $2-3, county raises the taxes $2-3, cable goes up $2-3, everything else goes up $2-3. People like me that don't even make $1,000, we're on the streets when this happens. So, you know, maybe the council needs to reconsider the taxes and maybe quit spending foolishly, like building a tourist center. Do we really need that? I mean, I understand projects like he presented. I think the money that is going into this tourist center should go there. And I think this is more important than a tourist center that really nobody's going to use. I mean, people don't stop. They're afraid of the homeless in the city. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. All right. Any other comments?
Good evening, Tara Meredith, Ward 4. I just wanted to make a comment regarding the budget that was proposed.
We do have a public hearing on that tonight.
Do you?
I'll ask you to take it.
Okay. Okay, the only other thing then is I'd just like to encourage you to have some discussion tonight about public safety. Some cuts were being proposed for public safety, and I don't think it's cuts that our city can afford. We spend a lot of money training officers for our police department, and when we train them and lose them to other agencies because we're not keeping things adequately staffed, you're training officers and then sending them to other agencies, and it's doing a disservice to the city. So we need to have some conversation about that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to council presidents. Oh, wait a minute, hold on.
Hello, I'm Kyler Danielson with Lakeside. I'm just asking that you guys vote to approve the ordinance for the zoning ordinance, Bill 2407. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Last call. Okay, so now we'll go with council president Swarp for the consent agenda.
Motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, which includes minutes from the October 23rd meeting, accounts payable and payroll.
Second. A motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilperson Ellis?
Do we need to amend the minutes to show that Councilmember Pieracini was attending online?
I was under that impression as well, but given new information, that will not be the case. Okay.
Thank you. Any others? No? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. It passes. Okay, so now we'll do the mayor's report, and I have two things. First thing, we had we have it today and tomorrow. The Washington State Transportation Commission has been meeting, or they met here today, and we took a 3-hour tour of Aberdeen and Hoquiam. It was very informative. I've taken it a couple times. They're really close to it, but it's always really informative. So if you ever get a chance to do it, it's really worth doing it. A 3-hour tour, and I'm not Gilligan, but okay. So then I have this wonderful thing. I like saying stuff like this is congratulations. And if I say her, it's Halen Hager. She's a student at Aberdeen High School. She won, I just knew it a second ago. Hold on here. So she won AA District 4 championship for cross country, and we haven't had a district championship in that area since 1978. So I thought it'd be really nice to congratulate her publicly. So if you see her and you know her, give her a big pat on the back for us. Okay, now counselor reports. Anybody else? Okay, councilperson Swore.
Yes, and the Parks Board met last week. Just a couple highlights from that. On the 22nd of this month, there will be a tree lighting at Zelasco Park. Timing on that, I don't know if for sure it was confirmed yet. The Bloom team that we saw earlier today will be wintering the baskets that go downtown next week. Sam Ben Park got that new swing set installed. So now we have an infant seat, 2 regular seats, and a seat for special needs as well. And my last piece from that is that we have a space for the next 3 years. We have one of our members is expiring at the end of this year. So interested applicants should reach out to Director Barnum or Mayor Ord.
Thank you. Any other counselors? Councilperson Ellis?
I attended a meeting October 28th. It was a workshop put on by the Commerce and Department of Ecology as a public information session on the state's comprehensive climate action plan. They were looking for input from citizens on what perceived needs were, and the ones that caught my attention were people who were there expressed concern about health and clean air in particular, not having a good resource where they could go to learn about solar projects and purchasing solar panels, or any of the other state incentives that would help reduce greenhouse gases. And the state is proposing to have a coordinator, outreach coordinator that would go from community to community, help people and agencies put together proposals and get funding for those.
So it was interesting. And it was good to have them in Aberdeen as well. And perhaps we'll see more of them.
Thank you. Okay, Councilor Franson.
I volunteered at the Conservation District cleanup at Kirkfield Bain Park. I hauled away 26 pounds out of the shoreline, and then the week after, I did a cleanup at the western end of the East Aberdeen Walkway, just above the Compass Rose. About 50 pounds of garbage out of there, and about a dozen pounds of recycling. And I only found one syringe at that time.
Good.
That's good.
Thank you. Anyone else? You should be getting an award, in my opinion. Just, I mean, the citizens that do so much for our community really need to be acknowledged, and I really appreciate what you do for our community. All right, next, staff reports with Administrator Clemens.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, hear me?
No, your light's not on.
Now can you hear me?
No.
Mike, thanks, Stacy, appreciate that.
Make sure you give it back.
Okay. I'll leave a quarter on top. Very, very busy week, since our last meeting, for the staff and I. But I have been attending, some collaborative meetings lately. I don't know if it's just something about the end of the year where people are trying to collaborate and prepare for different events. One of the meetings that we attended, Mayor Orr and I attended, was the AWC, the Association of Washington Cities, District 12. It's especially important for us to show up to this, especially this district meeting, because this really impacts, they wanted to make us aware of their legislative priorities. We wanted to make them aware of what our needs are in rural Washington. So they were very interested in the vacant building program. They've requested the program that is being brought to you tonight. They wanted to share that every city that was present was interested in a copy of that. We also had people that were interested in the almost every city there as well was interested in the RV program. So I just want you to be aware of the innovative and the important work that all of you are doing here, and that a lot of cities are watching us and seeing, how successful we are in the new programs that we're attempting to implement. We also had a Washington State DOT interagency winter meeting, a quarterly meeting, and this one was specific to de-icing efforts that will be happening throughout the city. So this was a great coordination meeting for us to kind of determine which roads will be tackled, which roads will be counted. So every municipal and local government agency was represented there. So it was a good opportunity for Director Sanger and myself to represent Aberdeen and make sure that our roads are cleared, and to understand where our guys will be working and where their work will start. So lastly, as Mayor Orr had stated, the Washington State Transportation Commission is in Aberdeen. We have been organizing this. We have been working on this particular meeting for over a year. We were originally supposed to host it over at City Hall, but considering the situation with the elevator, we moved it out here. This is an important body of citizens that are appointed by the governor, and they serve 6-year terms. They provide an opportunity for the public. This is an opportunity for the public to provide public comment to policy development as it is related to transportation. They also compile and put together the state's transportation comp plan, I guess you can say. So for the entire state, they set the rates for ferries and different tolls. And they also bend the ears of different legislators in office. So it's important for us to have representation. They are very impressed with Aberdeen and all of the work. As the mayor said, they took a tour this afternoon. Our city engineer, Nick Bird, presented along with other public works directors, presented information to them today from each city to talk about the successes and the opportunities for improvement for every city and for the relationship between DOT and their cities. And then tomorrow I will be presenting on economic development with the Greater Grace Harbor's Darren Rains, as well as the new county commissioner, Sam Kim. So lots going on, lots of more high-level representation in the last few weeks for the city of Aberdeen. So are there any questions? All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Director Barnum.
Stacy Barnum, Parks Director. I wanted to give you an update since you haven't heard from me for a while. 118 West Wishkah, we hired Harbor Architects for the architecture and engineering. They've begun work on the building plans and layout, because we didn't have plans for the building. They've worked with the sewer department to address the issue in the elevator pit, and they're putting together estimates for the roof and the windows on the 3rd floor. The mayor appointed a building remodel advisory committee, and those committee members include George Donovan, who was on the former museum board of Museum and History, John Larson, the director of the Polsa Museum, Ruth Hamilton and Jim Meekler from the Friends of the Aberdeen Museum, and Deborah Ross from the Downtown Aberdeen Association. The city has requested reappropriations of the funds to the Washington State Department of Commerce. That's the $2.3 million that we were awarded for the remodel of 118 West Wishkah. Our deadline to complete that project is June of 2025, and so we've requested an extension to have completion of June of 2027. The next item is festivals and events. New in 2025, there'll be a $100 application fee. That will be for those who apply for a festival event permit. There's a couple reasons for the application fee. One is an additional revenue source for the Parks Department as we look at ways to increase our revenues with the budget deficit that we're looking at, and also to get a commitment from events. We had a couple events this summer that had scheduled an event on a Saturday. So once that event is booked, then we tell other groups, that date's not available. Then about a month before the event, they canceled. And so that date was not available to any other groups. Since I've worked here, this is probably the largest number of events that we've had in downtown Aberdeen, which is a great thing. But as we all know, there's only so many Saturdays with good weather from June through August. So that's another way to help people to commit to their event. And then the AMC 12.72 does allow the Parks Director to have groups provide reimbursement for city costs. We've been waiving that fee for the last few years. Again, due to the budget cuts, we estimate it's about $20,000 in overtime costs for staff to do the traffic control for the events. I did submit a lodging tax grant to the City of Aberdeen's lodging tax grant program to cover those costs. So hopefully we'll get that grant funding, and then we won't have to charge the groups that hold the events in downtown Aberdeen. Some grants that we were recently awarded in the Parks Department, we received a Rainier Foundation grant for $2,000 for the 2025 Summer Park and Play. We were awarded a Grace Harbor Community Foundation Community Building Grant for $17,000. That's to replace the fencing on the south side of Peterson Playfield. It's runs along where the railroad tracks are. And then also to add new fencing at North End Playfield along Thomas Street. I submitted a grant request to the Washington State RCO for $25,000 through the No Child Left Inside program. And that's for a grant for the 2026 Summer Park and Play program. We find out if we're awarded that grant in the spring of 2025. And then I wrote 3 Aberdeen lodging tax grants, $15,000 for beautification, $20,000 for the traffic control. And the Arts Commission requested that I submit a grant for $15,000 to pay for an artist to come up with a design for the sign for the to build the sign and then to have the sign installed. That's a sign at the Wishkah River Bridge, that says welcome to Aberdeen currently, and it's in pretty rough shape and in need of being replaced. And then the next item, Council President swore, touched on it, that we did get the new swing set at Sam Van Park, which was something that I had received a number of requests from kids and families about getting a new swing set. We received a Grace Harbor Community Foundation grant that paid for that. We also got the new scoreboard installed at Pioneer Park Field 3, and that was paid for by Five Star Dealerships. And the last item is inviting you all to the Christmas tree lighting ceremony at Zelasco Park on Friday, November 22nd at 5:30 p.m. And we should have great weather that evening, so we look forward to having everybody out that night. Thank you.
Thank you. Great job with the grants. So we really love your efforts there. Any other directors? No? All right, let's go on to the finance chair, Theodore, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a public hearing tonight on Bill 24-08, an ordinance amending sections of AMC 3.76 to increase the tax on cable television services by 1.5% and utility tax by 5%, effective January 1st, 2025. I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're now accepting public comments. Seeing none.
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing is now closed.
Okay, this is, the next item is Bill 24-09, ordinance adopting a supplemental budget to change the 2024 appropriations and expenditures as specified. I move we open the public hearing on this ordinance.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing is now open. Is there any comments from the public regarding this matter? Seeing none.
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That was on the supplemental budget for this year.
It is on the preliminary.
That's a supplemental.
Yeah, but set close so you can be ready.
Okay. The next public hearing is for Bill 24-10, an ordinance providing for the 2025 levy upon all taxable property. I move we open this public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now open. If there's anybody who'd like to comment on this. Seeing none.
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing is now closed.
And next is a public hearing for Bill 24-11, an ordinance adopting the preliminary 2025 budget. I move we open this public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now open.
Just need to get more steps in today. Okay, so as I was saying, Tara Meredith, Ward 4. Just reviewing that one snapshot that I could see of the budget. I know it's way more complicated than that, but we need to look at the cost of what it costs to employ our public safety officers. And just a quick recollection of what we were spending maintaining garbage services and other things we were taking care of under the bridge. I think that's something you should not expend from your budget for 2025. So, I don't know, can we talk about that?
We can't talk to you about it.
You don't have to talk to me. You can talk amongst yourselves, but before you approve the budget, I'm hoping that you'll really consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I move we close the public hearing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed.
Okay, moving on to ordinances. This is the second reading of Bill 24-08, an ordinance amending sections of AMC 3.76 to increase the tax on cable television services by 1.5% and utility tax by 5%, effective January 1st, 2025. I move we approve the second reading of this bill.
Second.
Been moved in second. Is there any discussion? Councilperson Sedor?
So I wish the gentleman had not left who made the comment. You know, I can relate to the pain. It's just the council historically has tended to keep kicking the can down the road. We can't keep kicking the can down the road. We have made cuts. We're making some substantial cuts in order to balance the budget this year. It was proposed and considered that maybe we look at increasing this tax for the utilities over maybe the next 2 years. But again, then we'd have to pull in monies. We'd either have to pull in and use some monies from our reserve balance, from the Armory Reserve, which we really are gonna need for a real serious rainy day that might come up sometime in the future. We can't keep working off of deficit spending budgets and pulling into out of reserves. The other was looking for ways to cut. And there were some suggestions to cut further. And in fact, I would like to move to amend, oh, no, I'll do that when we amend the budget. But anyway, so we're considering things to make some additional cuts and look for it. But if we didn't increase this, if it was increased in a couple of different stages, like 3% this year and 2% the following year, we'd have to come up with another almost $400,000. And it's just, we just can't keep nickel and diming ourselves to death like this. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Councilperson Ellis?
Yeah, I'd also like to point out that the work at the museum, which also includes a visitor center, that's paid for by state funds. So that's not coming out of our general fund budget at all. And this budget does not include, this is talking about our budget for 2025, does not include expenses for cleaning up under the bridge as we had this year and prior years. So there's been a lot of tightening up, and it's not an easy decision to increase these rates. But again, it's a hard one that I think we need to make to stay on top of having a healthy budget.
Thank you. I want to remind council folks that when somebody else is talking, you can't be shaking your head or nodding in opposition of that person. You have to just listen, please, without expressing any of your own personal feelings.
Is that written somewhere?
Yes, it is.
Where?
Well, it's part of the Washington Association of Cities. And
Is it an RCW?
no, I'll look into it.
Okay, thank you.
I will.
Can I make a comment, please?
Please.
I'm gonna continue to vote no on this. I understand where we're coming with the budget and kicking the can down the road, but you know, as the gentleman said, $2 here, $3 there from every single taxing entity in the county and the state, and people cannot bear it. And, you know, saying that you relate to the pain, do you? That gentleman got up here, spilled his guts and said he's getting $1,000 a month. Most rents in this city are $1,200, $1,300, $1,400. You know, people can't do it. So, you know, our staff does an amazing job, but I think that that's the one area where maybe we need to start really taking a hard look, because that's our biggest expense. It's not a pleasant thing to discuss, and I don't, you know, I don't know off the top of my head what staff to cut. I would, you know what, I need to dig into that. But I think as a collective, maybe we should have that discussion. So I'll still be voting no.
Thank you. Is there any other comments? Councilperson Cedar.
Unless anybody else has a comment first, because I've already spoken once.
Thank you.
One of the questions that came up during the finance committee meeting tonight, we directed to our accounting staff and the city administrator was how many utility account paying customers do we have, which was around 9,000 ballpark. How many do we usually send cutoff notices to every month because they haven't paid or can't pay their bill? And it was about 100 a month, although most of those the city tends to work with and make arrangements with. Sometimes it's a timing issue on when they get their check, whether it's state assistance or social security or whatever. And I know, for a lot of people, $2 here, $2 there, whatever, it does add up, but unless we start really deciding we're gonna really pull back on a lot of our services, which we could do, we can do more, but we also have input and feedback from citizens. They don't want services cut, especially essential services, like Ms. Meredith was bringing up about police. And also, I ran on a pledge of really strongly supporting both our police and fire services. So, yeah.
Anyone else? Councilperson Tyler.
I was just kind of curious. It's every time I hear when we're talking about cutting stuff, it's always services, never staff or anything like that. It's just always services. It's that little threat. Services. We're gonna cut these essential services. Never mentions of staff or anything like that. And I was just curious why.
If I may, if we at all put our staff in a situation where we are jeopardizing their home, health, or food security, we are creating a situation where the snake is eating its tail. We are trying to solve a problem here, and if we are laying people off to try and resolve a budget, we are not solving that problem.
So how will we?
But our services are provided by staff, and we are making staff cuts. We're cutting effectively the equivalent of about 10 FTEs out of the budget for the coming year. And we're cutting back. Parks is letting off, or not going to employ 10 part-time temporary workers during like summertime, and when lawns are gonna have to get mowed in the parks. Park lawns are gonna start growing taller, and they're gonna need maybe some volunteer help to mow or something. But I mean, we are talking about cuts to staff, and it's the staff who provides the services.
Councilperson Ellis.
We've also frozen some positions. There are positions that haven't been backfilled. So that work has been done. Yes, more could be done, but it would have some pretty drastic consequences. And if we can get by, if we can make it through 2025, maybe things will improve a bit.
They will.
One can only hope, but we need our staff to make the city function. And I know it's been proposed before that city council members think about reducing our numbers. It's not a whole lot of money that would be saved, but again, something to think about.
If I may just respond
yes.
to one point that Liz said, as far as reducing the city council numbers, it's actually enshrined in our city charter that our number is 12. So you would have to take that to the voters. It's quite an onerous process to do. So just to clarify.
Anybody else? Councilperson Swarm.
Just for anyone wondering, the quick numbers, rough estimates for the 12 of us in our positions is almost $65,000. So when we talk about staff cuts and we talk about things like that, maybe reducing a council is not that bad of an idea.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to sway it or anything, but I would say that if you look at the cities in our state and the worst performing cities, as far as employment. And I think it comes to Aberdeen, it comes to two cities that have 12 council people. I think that the 12, I mean, you guys can do whatever you want, but but I'm just saying that I think sometimes having a large council like this is an infringement, it impedes our ability to be as
You
productive.
don't like the idea of more representation for the public, not less?
I
think
love
it-
that.
I think it's a question of the quality of the representation and the repetitiveness of some of it.
Just a reminder, we're discussing the utility tax.
Call the question, please.
Anybody else with a question, or is that, the question's been called? Oh, okay.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Roll call vote. Thank you.
Ellis,
Yes.
Francie,
No.
Aiken,
No.
Hodgkin. Not here, just disregard. Lawrence,
No.
Mackey,
Yes.
Morrison,
No.
Bertini,
Yes.
Fredo,
Yes.
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 Taylor.
No.
That's 6-5, Mr. Mayor. Second reading passes.
Thank you.
All right, okay, next we have a second reading of Bill 24-09, an ordinance adopting a supplemental budget to change the 2024 appropriations and expenditures as specified. I move we approve the second reading of this bill.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councilperson Sedor?
I did want to note, it was brought up in Finance Committee meeting tonight that the supplemental budget items are addressing changing some line items in the original budget that was approved for 2024 because of having to shift some additional expenditures and support those, but that we're saving in other areas where we haven't spent as much. So it's actually going to be a net, basically it's projected to be about a net zero. The budget expenditures are not going to increase for the year. That's the current projection. And tell me if I've misrepresented that in any way, Tara.
You are correct. We've had a lot of cost savings in that we didn't have a finance director. We've had other vacant positions that were left open. So the way that we were able to save money this year, we won't be over budget basically for this year's budget. The supplemental basically covers those things that weren't budgeted or weren't covered in. So these are those these are the end of the year requests.
Any other councilors? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Next is second reading of Bill 24-10, an ordinance providing for the 2025 levy upon all taxable property within the city of Aberdeen. I move we adopt the second reading of this bill.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Call for roll call.
Thank you.
Ellis. Yes. Francie,
Yes.
Aiken,
No.
Hodgkin, Lawrence,
No.
Mackey,
Yes.
Morrison,
No.
Bertini,
Yes.
Fredo,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Taylor.
No.
That's 7-4, Mr. Mayor. Second reading passes.
Thank you.
And next we have second reading of Bill 24-11, an ordinance adopting the preliminary 2025 budget. I move we adopt the second reading of this bill, and I further move that we amend the proposed preliminary 2025 budget by eliminating a $150,000 line item from the mayor's proposal to acquire a parking lot as an events area for the city for next year.
Second.
First and second, is there any discussion? Councilperson Swarm?
I was also going to amend to request the same, so I just wanted to thank you for speaking up to do that, Councilmember Sedor. Another question I have there, the total for that line was $225,000. The other $50,000 was for council chambers. Can I ask what the other 25,000 was for?
I can explain that. The other $25,000 was for a downtown, the construction of a downtown restroom, which was something that we heard from the community, the business community, in multiple surveys and in multiple public forums that we hosted. We heard from the community that they wanted some sort of downtown restroom, public restroom.
The upgrades to the chambers, is that just for the desks or was that intended for anything else?
No, I think the brunt of that cost will go to the sound system. We plan, at least like ideally, we plan to tear out everything so that we could have a similar setup to what we have here, where all of you can face each other and face the audience. And then we would also put these kind of like these mobile desks. We do it as inexpensively as we could, but I think the brunt of it will come from replacing the sound system.
Didn't we just previously replace the sound system, like very recently?
Not while I've been here, but the sound system is antiquated.
I think it was just prior to you coming on, that system was replaced.
Yeah, it's not, we've heard multiple, I don't know if it's just the sound system that's over the council members, but I know that we've had multiple issues with the audience being able to hear. If we did remove the desks, the sound system or the microphones are built into the desk, so that would create an issue where we'd probably try to find something similar to what they have here. I don't know that we'd be within budget. This seems like a very expensive system that they have here at the college.
All that in mind, I don't think it's a good idea for us to go forward with those upgrades either. If we're in a position where we're asking our staff to take these cuts, to take furlough days, we should not be taking money out of our reserves so that we can have an upgraded desk. I can't let that sit well.
Councilperson Ellis.
Thank you. In our finance committee meeting, we were talking about that. And there was an assurance that we would not be purchasing fancy, expensive furniture. We'd be using our same chairs. And that really it's the sound system that will be the bulk of that, which we need in order to be in compliance with ADA. People need to be able to have a hearing assist device in order to participate. And the other part of that, the 25,000 for a toilet downtown, in the finance committee, we talked about leaving that as a line item. It would not come out of general funds. It would be, we'd look for grant money to pay for that. But by leaving it on the budget, it means we won't have to pass another ordinance to change the budget if we get those grant awards.
Very good. Councilperson Sealer.
And just to clarify on that, I did speak to Director Barnum tonight, and she indicated that we could apply for an LTAC grant because it's kind of tourism related. Tourists coming into town don't have anywhere to stop to go to the bathroom. They've asked for this, so we could apply for it. Now, we've just missed the deadline, the cutoff for LTAC grants applications for this year to be approved for next year. But just like we did for the Little League thing this year, we could hold a special LTAC meeting supplemental and bring it to the council to consider spending LTAC funds for the toilet. Again, as Councilmember Ellis mentioned, we'd leave it as a line item in the budget, but we may be able to cover it with the LTAC grant funds, although that's not 100% guaranteed at this time, but.
Councilperson Morris.
As I said last meeting, I'm not necessarily against any of those things as like a one-time expense. Just this year, I'm not, absolutely not for it. I think the optics are terrible, raising rates on people and, like Sydney mentioned, asking staff to make all these cuts and then upgrading council chambers is bad optics. So, thank you.
I just wanted to comment on it, so just in my personal opinion or my personal feelings, since we've been here, our council meetings have been so much more productive and so much more civil. And I honestly believe that the dreary, it's just a miserable thing. You walk into our third floor and we don't have to do anything about it. But, I just think we'd have better council, we'd have better community, we'd have better everything if we didn't have such a dark, dismal, dated facility. I mean, and I know that you guys, you know, I'm all for not doing anything, but I'm gonna get a can of paint and do something because honestly, I think that brings us down. It brings all of us down to work in such a dark place.
Mr. Mayor, if you want to go half-seas with me on paint to spruce that place up on our own dime, I will be there first thing in the morning, helping you do whatever you need to do.
So I thought if I got the paint, I could ask and maybe we could all just volunteer our time to come.
I'm down
A
for that.
council work party, it doesn't sound like a bad idea in comparison to what we're asking of staff right now with this number.
Yeah, no, I understand you guys couldn't, so I'm not offended at all, so. You know,
Okay, I have a point of order.
Yes.
Because I made a motion with an amendment to the budget, but then council member swore, said she wanted to also make an amendment, but I don't recall hearing a second on that amendment, unless whoever seconded my amendment is willing to throw yours in and second it also.
Second.
She didn't make a motion. She thanked you for making the motion she wanted to make.
Okay, so you haven't made one yet.
I understand our long history with getting confused when we make amendments on motions. So my effort was to wait until this amendment has gone through and then I would have come back with the second amendment.
Is there any, okay, Councilperson Turchin?
So if we don't do the council change, we will still have to do the sound system. Am I understanding that correctly?
No.
No, we don't have to do any of it.
Okay. According to the ACA rules, didn't you talk about them?
That is already.
Okay, oh,
Perfect.
just wanted
We
to
already
clarify.
we are already ADA compliant.
Okay.
We have additional like hearing devices that we can offer people. They just have to give us like 48 hours notice that they plan to attend and we can charge the device for them.
Okay.
So.
Is there any more discussion? Councilperson Gake.
I got one thing on the restrooms, even if we are getting more funding for it, we're going to have to realize that unless these are maintained on almost an hourly basis, from my experience with the downtown restrooms and what I know that my wife has to do to keep it usable, that the issues we have with the current ones we have that are usable and functioning, they're just not
sanitary.
Well, this isn't a matter of sanitation, it's a matter of like the Portland news we were going to was for we'd have eyes on whoever's in there. And
On their feet.
On their feet. And if even we're gonna have to be sending someone there at least every 2 hours to clean it. It's gonna have to be done if we're spending the money to do it and so if we're gonna be doing that anyways, I don't see why we don't just reopen some of the ones we have and start maintaining them properly. Cause if we have someone there every 2 hours, there's not gonna be prostitution like where fears were. There's not gonna be drug use in it, cause there's gonna be someone there to clean it every 2 hours. Which is gonna have to be done in order to maintain a level of health there, no matter, regardless of what we build. So it just makes more sense to me, instead of looking for funding to build a new bathroom, we just start cleaning and using the ones we have on.
Do we have bathrooms downtown?
Several.
We had it.
There's one at Franklin Field. There's one at.
There's not one at Franklin Field. They took it and moved it to the park. I don't think there is.
We don't have any downtown.
Yeah, we had to move the one at Franklin Field because of the complaints, because of what you just said. It was being
Yeah.
used for prostitution and, yeah.
And just to make a point, like, we're cutting in the budget before you were cutting 10 temporary park staff, and park staff are the ones that maintain these restrooms. So it will be very difficult to maintain the restroom with the staffing levels that we have.
If we're building one, we're gonna have to acknowledge that there's gonna have to be a certain level of staffing that goes directly attached with whatever we build. Or it's just gonna be another shut down, locked up building that we spent money on.
Okay, anybody else?
I'd like to get some kind of feedback from Director Barnum or Administrator Clemens on that perspective. I mean, do you agree with that? Do you disagree with that?
The plan right now with the staffing cut, which is probably the largest seasonal staffing cut that the Parks Department has seen since I've worked here on the weekends. Our seasonal staff work mostly on the weekends. And we'll be closing our restrooms before the end of the workday during the week.
And what about if we build this toilet that's proposed in the budget downtown somewhere, how is it gonna be maintained or cleaned?
I guess that's a good question, you know, we're cutting staff in half and we're adding more work. So I don't have an answer right now.
We would have to figure out operationally how that would look. It could possibly include, I'm sorry. It could possibly include Public Works, street department folks that are down there, you know, cleaning, you know. It wouldn't probably be, it will not be every 2 hours, like you're asking for sure. It probably would not be that, so.
Any more discussion? Now we're voting on the amendment.
I want to make sure we're clear on this, that I think what I'd like to see in particular, I want to clarify my amendment. I'd like to vote on the amendment to remove only right now to consider the voting on removing the $150,000 to buy the parking lot downtown. Then we can deal with other potential council chamber, toilet, that kind of stuff.
So you're still,
So, yeah, we're just gonna vote on whether or not we cut the 150.
the 150, wasn't that the whole amount that we asked for?
No, that was just for the parking.
Okay,
Call the question.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, now I would like to move to amend the preliminary 2025 budget by eliminating from the budget the 50,000 towards council chamber renovation work and the 25,000 for a proposed toilet downtown.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Councilperson
You know, at first I was gonna vote for the toilet, but if we don't have a plan on how it's gonna be maintained and cleaned, I can't see right now approving it. We have another reading of this for final passage in 2 weeks. If council, if city staff or the city administrator can come back and bring us a plan for it, I might revise this and amend it in 2 weeks to put it back in, but right now I can't approve it.
I just had a question. So the Portland New, we're putting 25,000, that was for us to build it ourselves, wasn't it? Because we're talking about like $100,000 toilet if we bought it.
Correct.
So how long would it take for us, is it gonna take for that to be built?
I have no clue.
I mean,
I'm just trying to better understand if you guys are gonna pass this utility tax, because if you don't, then I have a whole other slew of things that I have to figure out, and I'm not worried about the toilet. So that's kind of where I'm at, and we're kind of in a holding pattern right now to see how this goes. So happy to provide a plan to you and all the things that you want. But yeah, I'm gonna have other things to think about, so.
okay.
Yes, but I'm happy to find that, to work on something.
Don't sweat it right now.
Okay.
So, is there any more discussion on the 150,000?
No, now it's the 25 and the 50.
Okay, is there any more discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed?
Now, last one is a resolution updating the fees and the fee schedule for community development, fire and public works.
Point of order.
Oh, we have to, the budget is amended.
Yes.
Got it.
correct.
Thank you. Sorry. I move to approve the budget as amended.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah, I appreciate that, council member. I was just actually thinking about that as I was rambling on here. Okay, now we get to a resolution updating the fees in the fee schedule for community development, fire and public works, effective January 1st, 2025. I move we approve this resolution.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Be resolution 2024-25.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to public safety. Chairperson Hodgkin, she's not here. Okay, hold on.
Just really quickly, I'd like to make a motion to extend the meeting until 9 PM if needed. We have a whole nother page to get through.
Second.
Oh, we'll just cruise.
Second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay. Okay, so
In the interest of time, I'm gonna shorten up the report and just go right to the agenda items for public safety. First up, we have a public hearing on Bill 24-12, an ordinance amending AMC 10.20 to provide for sections and infractions relating to commercial and recreational vehicles. I move that we open this public hearing.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The public hearing is now open. If anybody'd like to comment on this? No? All
I
right,
move we close the public hearing.
Second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public meeting is now closed.
And we have a request from Public Safety recommending that the city council declare the Kohler standby generator that has served the police department since 1988 as surplus to be sold at auction. I move we adopt this report.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
I have a request from Public Safety recommending that the city council approve the purchase of a Motorola Solutions interface between the 911 dispatch center and the fire department station alerting system for $37,082.18, an amount already included in the 2024 budget. I move we adopt this request.
Okay.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks.
And under ordinances, we have the second reading of Bill 24-12, an ordinance amending AMC 10.20 to provide for sections and infractions relating to the commercial and recreational vehicles. I move we adopt this second reading.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Mayor, one more thing.
Yes.
I'd like to move that we suspend the rules, consider the second reading the third, and place Bill 24-12 into a vote for final passage.
Second that, yeah. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
So be a
No
roll call.
Oh, thank you. That's right.
Ellis,
Aye.
Francie, Aiken,
Yes.
Lawrence,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Perigini,
Yes.
Fredo,
Yes.
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Motion passes 11-0. Mr. Mayor, this will be ordinance 6714.
Thank you. All right, moving on to, oops, sorry.
I have I don't know if this is some out of order on this. I have a question for the city administrator. I know it was requested at a prior city council meeting about looking into an ordinance relating to loitering. Is that being prepared for the council, something to consider?
Yes, it is
Thank you.
being prepared. It's with our legal team. There are a lot of implications when it comes to loitering because it is a constitutional right. So they have to carefully craft something for us. We also are working with our prosecutor's office and the courts to find out what the impact is going to be. We've seen a significant increase in arrests related to trespassing for those. So especially when it comes to like E and F Street, that's kind of where we've seen the most activity, which has skyrocketed legal costs for the city from having to hire public defenders. So we want to craft it in a way that will kind of preserve as much of our funds, because it is a general funded activity. And so that's what we're working on right now.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Yep.
All right, Public Works Chairman Lawrence.
Thank you.
Got a report. Request from Public Works recommending that the city council award the construction contract for the Systemic Pedestrian Safety Improvements Project to Rockland Incorporated. I move that we adopt this report.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? It passes.
Moving on to ordinances, third reading and final passage of Bill 24-07, an ordinance amending the zoning code of the city of Aberdeen. I move that we adopt this ordinance.
Second.
First and second, is there any discussion? Councilperson Sedor?
Question, I want to make sure. So we've amended this to make sure that the asphalt plant is zoned industrial, not waterfront.
You are correct. There's. Oh, great, I have one of those motions.
Thank you. Yes.
You are correct.
Now it's on. Any other comments? All in favor?
Roll call vote. Ellis,
Yes.
Francie,
Yes.
Aiken,
Yes.
Lawrence,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Bertini,
Yes.
Fredo,
Yes.
Fedor,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Motion passes 11-0. Mr. Mayor, this will be ordinance 6715.
Moving on, we got a first reading of Bill 24-13, an ordinance amending AMC Chapter 15.40 related to maintenance of vacant commercial buildings in the downtown business district. I move that you adopt this first reading. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
That's it from Public Works.
Thank you. Go on to council president's work for special committee items.
Just one this evening. We have a request recommending that the city council deassess the listed items from the museum collection. I move that we adopt this report.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. All right, so now we're gonna go back to a public comment period. Same as before, 3 minutes, your name and your address or ward, please. Hello.
Thank you, Member Sedor, Tamara, report. The two things I was gonna say, you already did tonight's agenda, so taking up the council chambers, this is a really nice setup. I've got to agree, it's nice and light in here, but we don't have the money to do it right now. And the council chambers that we have will work well enough until we do. Paint is cheap, that's true. And then $25,000 for the bathroom, that was a good deletion, so yeah, let's not do that. We do have restrooms down at the bus transfer station, that is downtown, right? They're being maintained and paid for by the county.
Yeah, but that's for training.
For people that are using the transit system, but they're public restrooms, people can use them. So it's not like there aren't places to use, and I think in the summers, you're gonna have a lot of unhappy citizens when they go to the parks and the trash isn't emptied and the bathrooms aren't usable. So you're gonna have to think about those things, because if we're gonna increase taxes on cable services for people, making it more unaffordable for people who really can't bear any more costs, and then make our parks less desirable to use because you're not emptying trash and providing bathroom services, you've got to rethink those things. So sorry, I've had a lot to say tonight, but those things are important. We're being a little bit short-sighted on those issues. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? No. Okay, then for the good of the order, I just wanted to, I'm going to say something for the good of the order. So I was at that meeting today with the state transportation commission, and I was talking to one of the commissioners, and she was asking about how my job was as mayor, and I didn't go into all the details because it's not very pretty all the time, but she said, asked what my number one issue was that I ran on, and I said, well, it's the homeless issue in Aberdeen because it was a pretty big issue. And she's like, well, we drove all around yesterday. You guys don't have, you're not Seattle, you don't have a homeless issue. And I'm like, well, thank you. We do have a homeless issue, but it's certainly a lot better than it was. So you guys should be proud of the work that we've done there, because it shows when people are driving through our town. Anybody else? Gaken.
I've got one
Councilperson
thing.
Gaken.
Just want to let people know that our street sweeper has been out of order for how many weeks now, Nick? 3? And so I just kind of want to get like a little word of mouth campaign going to where if anyone sees any leaves cluttering or blocking any storm drains, to go ahead and give city a call, and we'll send a crew out to take care of it. Just that things might be a little bit behind right now with the maintenance of the leaves in the gutters, because we've been without a street sweeper. So if they see it, please report it, otherwise we can't take care of it. If any one of us can just, if you're talking to your neighbor, just happen to mention to them that the street sweeper is gone, I'm pretty sure it'll spread like wildfire.
Yeah, and it's really quick just to go out with a rake like I do and just rake them up out of the ditch and up away from the curb.
I was gonna suggest that, but I didn't wanna end up with the liability of suggesting people are out in the streets digging in the gutters.
There's a conservation district event in a couple of weeks about storm cleanups downtown. Not this Saturday, but the week after.
Cool. Personnel.
I was listening in on Zoom to the Transportation Commission meeting and just wanted to thank our staff for the fabulous job of preparing and presenting what our challenges are and opportunities are here in Aberdeen. It was really, really productive. And then I know there are questions from the public. If they need sandbags, where can they find them? And are they still being staged at the water department?
Yes, they're still being staged at the water department. We may find a new location, but that location hasn't been determined yet. So yes, at the same location right by the water department on Heron, I don't know, at the end of Heron, and yeah.
Is there sand available there also?
Mhm. And it's a serve yourself kind of a deal.
I know we used to have a collaboration with the prison where they used to fill pallets for us. Is there any way we could get that reinstated? And it was pre-COVID, and we had to where we would have several of our sandbags prepared. It was the prison, wasn't it, Nick?
I have no idea at this point in time.
I've got them before, and they were already all done for us and on pallets, and it was really convenient. I was in a hurry and I needed about 100 of them, and if I would have been there filling them, I would have never made it in time.
Maybe it was city jail.
Yeah, I don't think it was Stafford Creek.
Yeah.
It wasn't Stafford.
I don't know, I don't know.
It's all
It
based
might have
on.
been the city jail.
Might have been, yeah. We'll find out information
Be
for you.
great if we could get those pallets back of the pre-mades. Especially for the elderly people that can't come in and do it themselves.
Elderly, just information. Is there any other? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilperson Swan, Council President Swan.
For good of the order this evening, I would like to make a motion to request staff to put together a presentation regarding the benefits and drawbacks of transitioning to a 7-person council, preferably no later than February 26th.
First and second, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No. Can we do a roll call vote, please?
Ellis,
Yes.
Ramsey,
No.
Akins,
No.
Hodgkin, Lawrence,
No.
Mackey,
No.
Morrison,
No.
Pericini,
Yes.
Fredo,
Yes.
Theodore,
Yes.
Moore, yes. Taylor,
No.
motion fails 6-5.
Okay, thank you. Anything else for the good of the order? Administrator Clemens?
I'm looking into February into January to schedule the strategic planning meeting. I'd like to bring more information back to you. So I will, at the next meeting, like to gather a date that works for all of you. I'm thinking it's going to be a kind of a retreat, a long whole day kind of event. We have a lot of things to cover with you that we want to propose for the upcoming year. And to go over the strategic plan as well. And to just kind of brush up on some other, hopefully we will have a, council code of ethics book as well prepared for you for your review. So there's a lot of things that we will need to go through. So please look at your calendars for January, and I will come back at the next meeting and ask all of you what day, whether it's a Saturday or a weekend day, that all of you would like to meet. Thank you.
Any other comments? We can make a motion.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Have a nice night. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Appreciate it. It's not raining, it's work hard.